Hey everyone, Sebastian here. Just want to introduce the video today. It's a compilation from Bluebook Test 4 Math Module 2B. Right, it's the harder module, and Bluebook Test 4 is one of the harder Bluebook tests. I've done this for Bluebook Test 1 already. I don't think there's that big of a difference, but I do think Bluebook Test 4's Math Module 2B is a little harder than Bluebook Test 1's. So it's great practice for right before the SAT this Saturday. If you have the time to watch it, definitely go through. And if you ever have any questions, feel free to ask them. There are 55 students in Spanish Club. A sample of the Spanish Club students was selected at random and asked whether they intend to enroll in a new study program. Of those surveyed, 20% responded that they intend to enroll in the study program. Based on this survey, which of the following is the best estimate of the total number of Spanish Club students who intend to enroll in the study program? Okay, so for this one, right, we are told that there are 55 students. That's one number we get, and we got 20% responded that they intended to enroll. Based on the survey, right, which of the following is the best estimate of the total number of Spanish Club students who would enroll? So the Spanish Club students, there's total 55, 20%, right, and it was a random sample, so it's a good sample. So then it should just be 20% times 55, and you can think of that either as 0.2 times 55 or 20 over 100 times 55, which is 1/5 times 55. Either way, you're going to get 11, right? So this is a nice, straightforward question. You just want to be careful that you read everything correctly and that you don't complicate it for yourself, right? You shouldn't use a calculator or anything. It's going to be A, not B, C, or D. And just make sure you understand what the question is. But again, this is about as straightforward a question as the SAT math will give you. A machine makes large boxes or small boxes, one at a time, for a total of 700 minutes each day. It takes the machine 10 minutes to make a large box or 5 minutes to make a small box. Which equation represents the possible number of large boxes, X, and small boxes, Y, the machine can make each day? Okay, so what we're going to do in this one, right, is we're told we have 700 minutes total a day, and this equation is giving us the number of large or small boxes with the minutes accounted for, right? So we want a 700 total, which they all have. And then each of the big boxes takes 10 minutes, and the big goes with X. So we want 10 to go with X, and then we want each of the 5-minute boxes, which are the small ones, to go with Y. So if you look at this, right, each large box will be 10, so you're going to multiply the number of large boxes by 10, and you're going to multiply the number of small boxes by 5. So since large is X and small is Y, we're going to go with B, right? Large is 10, X is 10, and then the other one is 5. And you can even check that that works, right, by saying, let's say you have 20 large boxes. That would mean the total time would be 20 times 10, which gives us 200 minutes. And that leaves 500 minutes for the small boxes. If we divide by 5, that would give us 100. So then 20 equals X, and 100 equals Y. Oh, whoops, I don't know why I put 100 equals 100. That's true, but that's not what we want, right? So which of these works when we plug in 20 and 100, right? If we plug in 20 here, we get 100 times 1,000 plus 1,000, too big, right? For B, it's going to work. C, it's not going to work, and then D, it's not going to work, right? Only B makes sense, and you don't need to come up with an example. I'm just doing it for people who have questions on it, but really it's just about joining the rate times the number of things, right? This is a very classic question. I think I see it on every test, and you just want to make sure rate goes with the right variable and that you're adding them together. The scatter plot shows the relationship between two variables, X and Y. A line of best fit is also shown. Which of the following equations best represents the line of best fit shown? Okay, so if you look here, we have, here's the starting point, somewhere between 13 and 14. And then we go from around, 13 down to around 2. So 2 minus 13, 13 minus 2. So 2 minus 13 over, we can find the slope, right? 0 over 14. 14 minus 0 on the bottom, right? Because first minus second over first minus second. So you're going to get around negative 11 over 14. And a bunch of people will like plug that in. You don't need to plug in because we have answer choices. So we don't need to be exact, right? You didn't even probably need to do this work because if you look, we have 0.8, 0.8, 0.8, 0.8, and we just want it to be negative, which is clear by it going down. So it's not going to be A, it's not going to be C, and then a y-intercept of 13.5 positive, so it's going to be B. So again, not too bad. We're 3 questions in. I think they've all been pretty straightforward. If you have questions on this, let me know. I will be doing more work on this. It's just about testing what you can read, right? And just reading it carefully, not rushing, not making silly mistakes. But otherwise, not too bad so far. Point with coordinates d, 4 lies on the line shown. What is the value of d? Okay. So basically it's saying when y is 4, what is x? Okay. So you could make an equation by doing this and this, right? So it's basically 7 is the y-intercept and 8 is the x-intercept. And when you have intercepts, you can make standard form. And to make standard form, you take the y-intercept, so it's 7, and you multiply that by x. And you take the x-intercept, and it's 8, so you're going to multiply that by y. And then you do 8 times 7 to get 56, right? Because that will give you, when at y is 0, x will be 8, and when x is 0, y will be 7, right? It just works nice and clean. And you can plug in the point, right? You can plug in 4 for y, so you're going to have 8 times 4 plus 7x equals 56, and then you can subtract that. You'll get 7x equals 56 minus 8 times 4, which is 56 minus 32. 32, right? So then that's going to be 24. So then x equals 24 over 7, right? And you could try to estimate it based on the chart, so it's going to be C. But on this one, right, 24 over 7 and 26 over 7 are so close because they're both between 3 and 4 that it would be hard, right? When y is here, right, that I can't really estimate. So it's tempting to do it that way. Maybe sometimes you can, but not on this one. So you want to make the formula and then go from there. The formula is not too hard to make. You could also think about it as the y-intercept is b, right? And it's like b equals 7. M, which is the slope, would be down 7 over 8. So it would be negative 7/8. And then you have y equals negative 7/8 x plus 7. That would also work, but I like the standard form just to mix it up, and it's nice and clean when they give you the 2 intercepts. Otherwise, point slope form or slope intercept form is always great. For the quadratic function f, the table shows 3 values of x and their corresponding values of f of x. Which equation defines f? Okay, so we have that it tells us it's a quadratic function, right? And all the answer choices make sense with that, with the 3x squared, 5x squared. They're all x squared, right? So when we have a linear function, we can do like the slope thing, and that helps a lot. With quadratic, since the slope is changing, it's not as helpful, but we can still do some fun things, right? So I'm going to plug and chug. Maybe you've heard that. So you're going to plug in 0 for x, and then see if you get 14. I think that's a good place to start. So if we plug in 0 on all of these, oh, they're tricky here. They all get us positive 14. Okay. So now I'm going to plug in 1 instead of negative 1 because 1 is just easier to plug in. And when we do that, right, 1, let's do 1 into a, right? So it's going to be 3 times 1 squared plus 3 times 1 plus 14. So 3 squared is 3, or 1 squared is 1 times 3 is 3. Gotta be careful there. PEMDAS, right? Exponents before multiplication. So then plus 3 plus 14, that gets us 20, which is what we want, right? We want to get 20. Okay, so 1 works on A, right? What about if we plug in -1 for A, right? If we plug in a -1, we're going to get 3 times -1 squared plus 3 times -1 plus 14, right? And that's going to get us -1, 3 plus -3 plus 14. That gets us 14, which doesn't work because we want it to be 10, right? So it's not A. Let's check B now. We can plug in 1 for B, so we're going to get 5x squared. So it's going to be 5 times 1 squared plus 1 plus 14. 1 squared is 1 again, times 5 is 5, plus 1 plus 14 gets us 20. So again, that worked. Let's try 1 on C and just see what happens. I'm going to plug in 1s to see if we can eliminate anything. So I'm going to do 9x squared. So 9 times 1 squared minus 1, minus 1, plus 14. 9 times 1 squared is 9, plus 14 is 23, minus 1 equals 22. So again, that doesn't work. And then D, we're going to do 1 squared plus 5 times 1 plus 14 equals, what does that equal? That equals 20 as well. So now we're between B and D, right? So let's see what we can do here. I'm going to erase the top. But actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to write up above. Up above. I'm going to the heavens on this here. So let's see. We go to the heavens. We go to the heavens. Up above. Okay. So let's plug in -1 and D, right? So we're going to do -1 squared plus 5 times -1 plus 14, and that's going to get us, -1 squared is 1. This becomes 1. This becomes -5 plus 14. -5 plus 14 is 9 plus 1. That gets us the 10 we want. So it should be D, right? And just as a treat, because I love doing the math so much, I'm going to plug in -1 for B to show you why it doesn't work there, right? We're going to get 5 times -1 squared minus 1, right? Because it's plus -1 plus 14. -1 squared is 1 times 5 is 5. Plus 14 gets us 19 minus 1 gets us 18. Boo, 18, not 18. All right, so we have D as our answer here. So this one takes a little bit of time. You know, you can't do it as quickly as you do a linear function one, but it's also not too complicated, not too tricky. You just want to watch everything you're doing. I'm sure there's things you could do with factoring here, but I think this is the easiest way to go about it. And also, you could use Desmos, so I'm going to show you that right now. All right, so now we have Desmos here, and you're going to see, you could plug in the equations and see which one crosses all those points, but you can also do this. Look, 10, 0, 14, 1, 20. Okay, so you have these 3 points, and then you go to this button, and you make them into a chart. And from that chart, you see they're there, and it's written in the chart. You can do this add regression. And we're looking for not linear regression, we are looking for quadratic regression. And we're going to get 1x squared plus 5x plus 14, which is D. The function f is defined by f of x equals x plus 15 over 5. And f of a equals 10, where a is a constant. What is the value of a? Okay, so we're looking for, right, a, and this is 10. So what this is telling us, if f of x is this, is that we're going to plug in a for x, and then solve for 10, right? You don't even need to plug in x, or a, you could just think of solving for x when we plug in for 10 for y, or for f of x, but we'll do it this way, right, just to make it extra clear. So we're going to do 10 equals a plus 15 over 5, right? And then you're going to move it over, so you're going to do 5 times 10, you'll get 50 equals a plus 15. You could use Desmos, right? And you could have graphed this and then see what the x value is when it crosses at 10. But I like this method better. I'll show you the Desmos method in a second, but trust me, this is the faster way. You have less chances of messing up. So you're going to subtract 15, right? So a equals 35, okay? And if we look at our answer choices, it is C. All right, so now we'll do it with Desmos. It'll be quick and easy. Okay, so now we have Desmos here, right? And all you do is you're going to plug in x plus 15 and just make sure it's like this. I think on the actual thing you could like copy and paste, but even if you can't, right? So now we have this, and now let's zoom out. We don't want to zoom out that much, but here, right, when x is 35, right there, right, when y is 10, x is 35, so again, we get C. But again, the math here is not too complicated. You plug in, you move it around. It honestly probably takes me longer to open up Desmos and do it this way than it would just to write it out. So I would really recommend writing it out, but you always have Desmos here on this type of question to help you. In the figure, lines M and N are parallel. If x equals 6k plus 13 and y equals 8k minus 29, what is the value of z? Okay, so parallel lines, right? The rule with parallel lines is alternate interior angles are equal and same side interior are supplementary. Supplementary, if you remember, right, is that they add up to 180. Equals 180. Sum, right? Sup equals 180 sum. So if x equals 6k plus 13, so this is 6k plus 13, and y equals 8k minus 29. So this has nothing to do with the parallel lines because they're on the same line. They're vertical angles. And if you remember, vertical equals congruent, right? So cong. So what we'll do is we'll set them equal to each other. 6k plus 13 equals 8k minus 29. We'll add 29. Add 29. So I have 6k plus 42 equals 8k. Subtract 6k, we're going to get 42 equals 2k. K equals 21, and this is a classic area where people would make a mistake if they're rushing or something, or they didn't read carefully, and they'd say, oh, we got 21, B is 21, let's go with B. But it's asking for the value of Z. Right, so now we can plug that in to solve for Y, so 8k, or 8 times 21 minus 29, right, that's going to be 168 minus 29, which is going to be like 168 minus 30, which is 138, but plus 1, so it's going to be 139. Again, classic mistake would be going with D, right? Because we're like, oh, we got 139, but that's Y, not Z. So z plus 139, because they're supplementary, equals 180. So z equals, that's right, 41, because we subtract 139 from each side, and we get the answer is C. Okay. So again, not too bad of a question. I think kind of a fun one to do. I love like these ones that have like these small steps that sort of line up and aren't too bad individually, because it feels like I'm getting a lot done, but also it's not like stressful or anything. Okay. So line P is defined by 2y plus 18x equals 9. Line R is perpendicular to line P in the xy plane. What is the slope of line R? So we're looking for line R, right? And we want to remember perpendicular lines are negative reciprocals. So perp equals negative reciprocal. And what does that mean? That means you flip the fraction, that's the reciprocal part, and you flip the sign, that's the negative part. So if you have like your slope is -2, the perpendicular slope, you flip the fraction, so it becomes a half, and you flip the sign, so it becomes positive 1/2. Negative reciprocals, right? So for this one, we're going to do line P is defined by 2y plus 18x equals 9. And R is perpendicular. So R perpendicular to P, R perp to P. Perp sounds bad, right? Like the perp, but it's not bad here. So we want to find the slope of P. How do we find the slope of P? We can isolate y. We're going to get first move the x over by subtracting 18x. So we're going to get 2y equals negative 18x plus 9. We don't actually care about the 9 because that's just about the y-intercept, and all we care about here is the slope. Oops, I forgot to add the x here. And now we're going to divide everything by 2. And we'll get y equals negative 18 over 2, which is negative 9x, plus, and then again, I don't care about this part, but it'll be 9/2, but forget about it. So the slope here is a negative 9. Again, you don't want to make the mistake of saying, oh, negative 9, because we're looking for the slope of line R, which is the negative reciprocal. So to convert, right, first we flip it. So it'll be negative 1 over 9. And then we multiply it by negative 1. And it becomes positive 1 over 9. And if you look at that, it is C again, right? And again, you can look at the answers to give yourself an idea, right? They're either 9, negative 9, or 1/9 and 9. So the original slope was negative 9, and then you go from there, right? It's not too bad of a question at all. I think I'm feeling good about this section for myself and for you. A sample of oak has a density of 807 kilograms per cubic meter. The sample is in the shape of a cube where each edge has a length of 0.9 meters. To the nearest whole number, what is the mass in kilograms of this sample? Okay, so what we're going to do here is we have to find volume and mass, right? So if you remember, mass equals volume times density. And they give us the density here, right? Often people see this formula as the density formula, where it's written as density equals mass divided by volume, right? D equals m over v, like the DMV. So this one is m equals v d. I'm just writing it like this because we're looking for mass, right? It asks for mass in kilograms, which is nice of them because we have kilograms here already. So we don't have to worry about that unit conversion at least. And we have this in meters, but if you look, it's less than 1 meter. So that'll be some interesting stuff. So mass is going to be density 807 times volume. And I know volume is going to be less than 1. So I know the answer should be either B or A, right? But let's find out what the volume is. So volume equals 0.9, and it's a cube, so that's a side length cubed, okay? And I can tell you right then that 0.9 cubed, so 9 squared is 81, right? And 9 cubed is 729, and 0.9 would just move the decimal place 3 places, so it's going to be 0.729. Okay, so we're going to do mass equals 807 times 0.729, and I can tell you, even without doing the math, that it's not going to be A, B, or it's not going to be B, C, or D, right? Those are too big. It has to be A, and if we plug it in and multiply it, you'll see that it is A, okay? So it's not too bad a question at all, but you just want to be careful about watching the units and doing your math carefully, right? The function P models the population in thousands of a certain city T years after 2005. According to the model, the population is predicted to increase by n% every 18 months. What is the value of n? Okay, so this one's looking tricky because the T is for years, but they want to know what it is every 18 months. And the T isn't clean, right? We have this 4/6 attached to it. So it's going up. If it were just 1.04 to the T power, I could tell you it's going up 4% every year, right? Would be 4% a year. But here, we have 290 and we have 1.04 to the 4/6 T, right? So every 18 months, what is the value of n? Okay. So I can tell you right now, it's not going to be B or A, right? It's not going up that little because it's going up 4% a certain amount, right? But how do we find it exactly? Okay, so to find it, right, let's think about T and 18. So what's the relationship between 1 year and 18 months? 18 months is how many years, right? It's going to be divided by 12 months. You're going to get 1.5 years, right? So let's plug that in here and see what happens. So we're going to do 290, 1.04 to the 4/6 times 1.5. And when we do that, the 1.5, so the 1.5 is what I'm saying is like 1 unit of 18 months, right? So we're going to do that multiplied, and that's going to give us 1.04 to the 1 power. So every 18 months, we're going up 1 T, right? So let's say we did 2 units of 18 months, that would be 3 years. And that would again work where if we plugged in 3 for T, we would get 3 times 4. Right, I'm going to do it right here because it's just off to the side. 3 times 4/6 would get me, again, 2, right? So every 18 months, you're going up 1 in the exponent, and that means you're going up 4% overall, okay? So they're trying to trick you with this whole 4/6 things, but actually it cleans it up for you. The 4/6 and the 18 months cancel, and that makes sense because 4/6 is 2/3, 18 months is 3/2 of a year. You multiply that together, and you get 1, right? So you're going to do 2/3 times 3/2 gets you 1. So every 18 months, we're going up 1 T. Okay, nice and clean, very easy. Okay, so if you have questions on this, let me know. It's a little tricky, but honestly, if you get stuck, plug in and check, right? You could do at 0, you get a certain number. Then you can do after 18 months, you got a certain number. And all you have to do is what I did here, which is convert 18 months into years, right? 18 months is 1.5 years. And it's not too bad. 2 parentheses kx minus n equals negative 28/15x minus 36/19. In the given equation, k and n are constants, okay, that just means they're numbers, and n is greater than 1, okay. The equation has no solution. What is the value of k? All right, so when you have no solution, I feel like I've done this over and over again, but it's always helpful to go over it. No solution, that means they're parallel. If you were to graph the two sides, right? So no solution equals parallel, which means same slope, different intercept. Okay. Then we have one solution, right? Because they're straight lines. One solution is just, the regular, the classic, they have different slopes. And then we have infinite solutions, okay, which is when it's just the same line, which means they have the same slope. And they have the same y-intercept. So it's like one line, same slope, and intercept. This would be totally different. So it'd be like boom, boom. They could have the same intercept, but it still has to have different slopes. So for this, right, how do we do it? We're going to do, well, let's keep that actually. So we're going to do, in the given equation, k and n are constants. So I'm going to distribute the 2 just to start working with things. So we're going to get 2kx minus 2n equals negative 28/15 x minus 36/19. So the thing with the x has to line up. They have to be the same value to have the same slopes, right? You could think of 28/15 as a slope, negative 28/15 as a slope. So this has to be the same thing. So we're going to do 2kx equals negative 28/15x. Forget the x's, they cancel. Okay, so we get 2k equals, let me just really erase that, negative 28/15. And now we're going to divide by 2, and we're going to get k equals negative 14/15, and that is our beloved, lovely value, okay? So again, why does that work? Because if we plug that back in here, we're going to get negative 28/15x, negative 28/15x. The x's then cancel, and we're left with this negative 2n thing and this negative 36/19 thing. Who knows what's going on there, but they're not going to match up. And we are solid, okay? So if you have questions on this, let me know. Some people might be tempted to do Desmos, but I would recommend against it. That's why I'm not going to do it here. It's just more complicated, I think, than it needs to be. But again, you really want to understand this, not just for this question, but I've seen it on every test, questions like it, where you need to understand when you're going to have one solution to infinite solutions and no solutions, okay? A gift shop buys souvenirs at a wholesale price of $7 each and resells them each at a retail price that is 290% of the wholesale price. At the end of the season, any remaining souvenirs are marked at a discounted price that is 80% off the retail price. What is the discounted price of each remaining souvenir in dollars? So they say the word each and price so many times, right? It almost feels confusing, but it's not too bad. So we're starting with $7, and we resell it at 290% of, right? Not more than, but of. So we're going to do 290/100 times 7. And that is going to give us some value, right? Let's call it V for now, that they sell for. At the end of the season, any remaining souvenirs are marked at a discounted price that is 80% off the retail price. So we're going to do 80% off the retail price. So that's 100 minus 80%, right? Is going to get us 20%. So what's really happening here is we're doing 20% of V. So it's 20% of this. So what you can do is you can do 290/100 times 20/100 times 7, and that'll get you the answer directly, right? So for this one, you could simplify a bit and make it 29/10, and this could become 1/5, but the math is still kind of ugly, so I would just plug into the calculator and solve. You could use Desmos on your own and you'll get $4.06, which can also be 203 over 50, right? I like the decimal one more because I'm thinking of it in terms of money, but either one works, right? If you did the 203 over 50, that's totally fine too. So the trick and the thing that threw me off one time is that I just did 80% of. I didn't notice that it was 80% off. And what I've seen other students do is they'll do 290% more than the wholesale price, right? Not 290% of the wholesale price. So you just want to be careful when you have percents that you're reading what type of percent they want exactly. Otherwise, it's not too bad of a question at all, right? And I like to go directly, but you could have found V and then solve for 20% of that. Sometimes that feels easier for people. Either way, it won't take too long. You just want to be careful that you read the question correctly, right? So just double check on the reading, right? Read it once, do the problem, and then before you move on, read it again. Trust me, it's worth the extra time. In the given equation, C is a constant. The equation has no real solutions if C is greater than N. What is the least possible value of N? Okay, so we have x squared minus 34x plus C equals 0. And it's saying what is N? And C has to be greater than that for them to be no real solutions. So as a review, right, think about a quadratic. I'm going to do this all by drawing. And you'll see just how this works, right? So as a review, right, you have either two real solutions when it crosses twice. You can have one real solution when the vertex is on the axis, x-axis, right? Let's imagine that was right there. And you can have 0 when it's above or below and never crosses, right? Here you could have also had something like this, and you can have something going down like this. But the important thing is when you have 0, it's above or below. So what value can go here that'll make it go above or below? What you can use is the discriminant, right? Discriminant, which is our friend, right? Unlike discrimination. Discriminant. For some reason, I feel like I'm misspelling it, but I know I'm spelling it right. So it is the part when we think about the equation of the quadratic equation, right? It is negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. It is this part, the b squared minus 4ac, okay? So to find that, what we do is we plug in, and you have to get something when that part equals 0, we have one solution. When that part is a positive, we have two solutions because the square root of a positive is plus or minus, right? Like we see here. And then when that part is negative, we have 0 solutions. Okay, so for this one here, we're going to do 34. Let's plug in A and C and then see what happens there, right? So I am going to erase a bit. Okay, so we have b squared minus 4ac. B is negative 34, so that's going to be squared. The negative will go away, so it's just going to be 34 squared. Minus 4, A is just 1, so it's 4c. Has to be less than 0, right? So then what we're going to do is we're going to do 34 times 34, and that's going to give us $11.56 minus 4c, which is less than 0. And now we're going to move the 4c over, so we're going to have 11.56 is less than 4c, and we're going to divide by 4. So c is greater than 289, right? So here's a trick. This is, I think, what makes this question extra hard. Is not only do you have to know discriminant, not only do you have to understand when it's negative, positive, and 0, what that does for solutions, right? And we're looking for no real solutions. But it's not even asking for what C is, right? Because C can't be 289. C has to be bigger than 289. It's asking for this number n. What is the least possible value of n? So then that means n isn't 290 or anything. N is 289. Because c has to be bigger than n. So we're looking for n. So n equals 289. Okay, and that is our exact answer there. And this is a tough one, but totally doable. And I believe that you can get this one. If you have questions on what to do for this, let me know. You know, I think some people would do it with Desmos in some way, but I think that complicates things more than it's worth. So just do it this way. Remember, the discriminant is the inside part of the square root in the quadratic equation. Okay, and if you can get that, this will help for this question, and it helps for a lot of questions. I see this come up a lot in like the hard level questions, so really nail that down. And if you have questions on it, you know how to reach me. Dataset A consists of the heights of 75 buildings and has a mean of 32 meters. Dataset B consists of the heights of 50 buildings and has a mean of 62 meters. Dataset C consists of the heights of 125 buildings from datasets A and B. What is the mean in meters of dataset C? I love this question more than I love even most questions. And you know I love most questions, you know, an abnormally large amount. So this one I love because it is so elegantly done and it seems insurmountable to some people. I'll show this to students and they'll be like, I have no idea what to do. And you really don't need to know that much to be able to do it. It's about weighted averages, which if you've done chemistry and finding isotopes and finding the weighted average there, you know what I'm talking about. If you're doing mixtures where you're mixing things, that's the same thing. Here it's a mixture kind of, but they're, you know, units of mixtures. So let's try it out. So if, let's say you had one thing and one thing, right? Let's say we had one building that was 32 and one building that was 62. To find the average, you would just add them and divide by 2, right? And that would be 32 plus 62 is, anyone, 94. Divided by 2 gets you 47, which is right in between 32 and 62, right? They're perfectly even, right in the balance. So here, though, there's more in dataset A than in dataset B. So it's like more weight is put on the dataset A values than on the dataset B values. And how much weight's put on it is determined by exactly how many there are of each. So this one has 75 buildings and this has 50 buildings. So what you do is you're going to do 75 times 32 plus 50 times 62 divided by the total number of buildings, which is 125, right? And it is just, oh, I really can't stress how much this is fun to me. So we're going to do 32 times 75 plus 50 times 62 all over 125, okay? And that's going to give us 75 times 32. I like to do 3/4, right? So that's 824. That's going to be 2,400. Plus, with 50s, I like to divide by 2 and then add 2 zeros. So it's going to be here 3,100, all over 125. And don't worry, do this in the calculator. Why am I doing it like this? Because I'm a weirdo who loves to do mental math. But we all have our passions, you know. So we add them together. That's going to give us 5,500 over 125, and that is going to be anybody? That's right, 44, which makes sense, right? Because it's closer to the A value of 32 than to the B value of 62. And it is a lovely, lovely answer. Nice and whole number, clean, beautiful. I'll stop there, you know. I think I'm getting too excited about this question. But it is a fun question, and if you have questions on it, please ask them, because I will find any excuse to talk about weighted averages. I think there's something just like it just clicks for me. So again, you want to find the total from each by multiplying 75 by 32, 50 by 62, and then dividing by the total, right? And that sort of gives a higher weight to the data set A, which makes sense because there's more of them, so that they get to count more. This is a democracy, okay? A representational democracy here, okay? It is not a republic. It's not a monarchy. It's a democracy. The expressions 4x squared plus bx minus 45, where b is a constant, can be rewritten as hx plus k, x plus j, where h, k, and j are integer constants. Which of the following must be an integer? Okay, so for this one, right, it's an abstract quadratic question, which I think are some of the hardest on any of the tests. So we have hk plus x, k plus j, right? So it factors to that. So that means k and j must multiply to negative 45. So kj equals negative 45, right? Because they go into this here. Hx and x has to be, I would say 4. So h equals 4. Because we're getting 4x squared, and this is just x, right? So that's how we're going to get that. So if we FOIL, let's just FOIL it out, right? We're going to get hx squared, or hx plus k. Let's write that here. And then x plus j. And then we're going to get hx squared, right, when these combine, plus outside times outside, hxj, plus inside times inside, plus kx times k plus j plus kj, right? So hj plus k equals b, right? Okay, so now let's think about the relationship between b and h, right? Do they need to be divisible by each other? Okay, so let's look at our answer choices, right? We have A is B over H, B is B over K, C is 45 over H, and D is 45 over K. So what we have here is a relationship, right? So we have that these two equal negative 45, right? That means that K equals negative 45 over J. That means that K is a factor of 45, so that means 45 divided by k would get you a whole number, right? And that would be our answer. Now you might be asking, Sebastian, why don't the other ones work, right? The other ones don't necessarily not work, it's just that they has to be a must, so the other ones don't have to work this way, right? So the relationship between b and h, right, is hj plus k equals b. If anything, that tells us that b is not a factor, because hj gets us a whole number, and then we're adding k on. The only way this could work is if k were equal to a multiple of h. Okay? So like let's say, and you could plug in numbers, right? You could say k is 5 and j is negative 9, and then go from there. And you already know h equals 4. Okay, so that one doesn't work because that's 4. Then we have b over k. So when we do b over k, again, what's the relationship between b and k? It's here, and we're adding on h and j to k. So unless hj is a multiple of k, b is not going to work when you're dividing it by k. And then we have 45 divided by h. That one we know doesn't work because h equals 4. This equals 11.25. Okay, so again, doesn't work. So our only one that makes sense, and our answer is D, 45 over k. In the given systems of equations, a is a positive constant. The system has exactly one distinct real solution. What is the value of a? And we have this as our system of equations, right? Y equals negative 1.5 and y equals x squared plus 8x plus a. So to find, so one distinct real solution, so quick overview, right? That means if we were to graph it, we'd have them intersect exactly 1 point. So that means if one of the lines is negative 1.5, like down here, the other one just goes and touches it, right? And we can find that using the discriminant, which, if you don't remember, is the part inside the quadratic, or inside the square root in the quadratic equation. So it's going to be b squared minus 4ac, right? All over 2a. So it's just a b squared minus 4ac. And if it's positive, we have two solutions. If it's negative, we have no solutions. And if it's 0, we have one solution. So we want it to be 0, right? So let's set these equal to each other because y equals this and y equals that, and then find what it is. So we're going to do negative 1.5 equals x squared plus 8x plus a. We're going to add the 1.5, so we're going to get x squared plus 8x plus a plus 1.5 equals 0. And then, so what is the b squared going to be? B squared is going to be 8 squared minus 4 times 1, right? Because a is 1, times, and they're kind of tricking us here because a in the question, right, is different from the a we think of in the standard form of a quadratic, but there's going to be a plus 1.5, that's c, has to be equal to 0. And we're going to get 64 minus 4 times 1 is 4. And then we're going to do a plus 1.5 equals 0. So then we're going to get 64. Let's subtract 64, and we're going to distribute the negative 4. So we get negative 4a minus 6 equals negative 64. When we add the 6, we're going to get negative 58. So negative 4a equals negative 58. And then we're going to divide by negative 4. And a equals 58 over 4, which is 29 over 2, which is 14.5, okay? So this one is not too bad if you know about the discriminant. And you really need to nail that down because I think on basically every practice test I've seen on either the Module 1 or Module 2B, there's a question where knowing the discriminant really helps you out. The dot plot represents the 15 values in dataset A. Dataset B is created by adding 56 to each of the values in dataset A. Which of the following correctly compares the medians and the ranges of datasets A and B? Okay, so we have this datasets, right? And we're adding 56 to every one of these values, so everything's getting shifted. And then it's asking to compare medians and ranges, and let's look at our choices. The median of dataset B is equal to the median of dataset A. And the range of dataset B is equal to the range of dataset A. Okay. The median of dataset B is equal to the median of dataset A, and the range of dataset B is greater than the range of dataset A. So if you see, right, there's a pattern. The first part's the median part, the second part's the range part. Median of dataset B is greater than the median of dataset A, and the range of dataset B is equal to the range of dataset A. And then D, the median of dataset B is greater than the median of dataset A, and the range of dataset B is greater than the range of dataset A. So what it's testing is the abstract idea of what happens when we're changing all the numbers by the same amount, right? If we're changing all the numbers by the same amount, or we're adding 56, right? We're shifting everything up. So the median is always going to be shifted. It's also going to be shifted up, right? Here, the median is some value here, and it's going to go up to 56. So I would say it's going to go up 56, so it'd probably be 79 because I think the median is 23, but I don't even need to do the math. I know the median is going to be greater. So breaking it down, right, it's not going to be A because that's saying the median is equal, and it's not going to be B because that's also saying the median is equal to either C or D. Now what happens with the range? If you're shifting everything up, right, the top value has been shifted up the same amount as the bottom value. So the difference between them, right, the 22 and 26 is 4. Now, if we add 56 to 26, we get 82. And 56 to 22, we get 78. And the difference, again, is 4, right? If we're shifting everything equally, we stay the same, so the range is going to be equal. D is saying the range is greater for dataset B, so it's not that. It is C. Okay? So this one's not too bad. You know, we're getting toward the end of Bluebook Test 4, which is supposed to be one of the harder Blue books, and Module 2B, which is supposed to be the harder module. And this question is there, and it's still not too bad, right? It's just knowing the concepts of how numbers can shift and how data gets affected. A rational function is defined by an equation in the form of f of x equals a over x plus b, where a and b are constants. The partial graph of y equals f of x is shown if g of x equals f of x plus 4, which equation could define the function g? Okay. So I like this question. I think it's a fun question because it's very conceptual, right? We have this graph here, right? It seems to be flattening out here, flattening out there. And we have this thing x plus b. Okay, so what is b? B equals question mark. And what we want, right, is it flattens out when the bottom goes to 0. So what's causing the bottom going to 0? Here, as it goes to 0, right, we're getting closer, but we don't hit -4. So that means when x equals -4, it's not going to work. So x cannot equal -4. So that means the bottom is x plus 4. Over, and let's look at our answer choices, right? We have 6, 6, 6, 6, 6. So everything is 6 over that, right? So this is our original equation. And then we're told g of x is f of parentheses x plus 4. When we have it within the parentheses, we're adding 4 to it. So it's going to be converted to 6 over x plus 4 parentheses plus 4. Then there's no weird things going on in the bottom, so we can just make it 6 over x plus 8. And that is C, right? A would be if it were the asymptote were at 0 for the new one, which means the other one would be, -4, which would be over here, I guess, when x is positive 4. This one would be if the original were at 0 and we move it 4. So it would be C, right? And D is just kind of weird. They cancel out there. But it's not too bad of a question. You just want to know the rules about translations, right? Vertical and horizontal. This is a horizontal translation. And more than anything, you just want to know that the equation would be 6 over x plus 4, and then you just add 4 to the bottom. And that's 6 over x plus 8. In the given equation, a and b are positive constants. The product of the solutions to the given equation is KAB, where k is a constant. What is the value of k? Okay, so for this one, what we want to do is try to factor this to find the solutions, right? And it looks unfactorable. You're like, Sebastian, how the heck are we going to factor this? Well, I'm going to show you how in a moment, right? So it looks tricky. It is tricky. But what you have to do is believe in yourself. 57x squared plus 57b plus a. All right, I'm just copying it. Obviously, you wouldn't need to copy it out, but I'm just moving it here to have it all in a nice little row, getting my ducks in a row. Now, the solutions, right, I'm thinking has to multiply to 57x squared and multiply to AB, right, like the two factors. So I'm going to say, what are the factors of 57, right? 57 and 1, 19 and 3. But I see here there's a 57. And this kind of looks like, multiplication and addition thing. So there's some sort of combination. So I'm going to go 57x plus A or B, right? If I put an A here, then that means 57x will get multiplied by B, and that would give me 57bx, which looks right. But if I put a B here, then I would get 57ax. I'm going to put A, and then I'm going to do x plus B, and I'm going to check my work by foiling. So 57x times x is going to be 57x squared. 57x times b is going to be 57bx. A times x is going to be ax. And a times b is going to be ab. So that's what we wanted. This is what we wanted. And this part doesn't look like that part, but when we factor out the x, we're going to get it, right? 57b plus a. Lovely, beautiful. We're having a great time. Okay, so now that means that these are our factors. Now let's find the solutions. 57x plus a, x plus b equals 0. So x equals negative b and negative a over 57, right? Because I would subtract a and divide by 57. And then we're told that the product of the solutions to the given equations is KAB, where k is a constant. So KAB equals the product of the given solutions. So it's going to be KAB equals negative b times negative A over 57, and you're like, Sebastian, how does this work when there's negatives and then it's positive and all our answers are positive? Where's the negative going to go? What happens is we have negative b times negative a. The negatives cancel, so we get ab over 57 equals kab. The ab's cancel, so k equals 1 over 57. And it's A. And you're like, wow, Sebastian, how did you get this? How is this possible? This looks crazy. And I want to let you know it's not crazy. What you do is you go kind of on instinct. You're like, this has to work some way. And you think, well, what could I do? Oh, I could try to factor. Okay. I know I need to multiply to 57x squared and AB. Okay, and then there's this 57 here. And you try it out. And if it doesn't work, you have to be confident that you can come up with something else, right? You need a little bit of assurance and confidence to work these out and not just freeze up and think and not know what to do. Right? Try things and then reassess. And if you're fast at the small parts like multiplication and division, you'll have time to reassess and redo, right? So it looks complicated. It looks like I had high level math. It wasn't really, right? It was foiling, it was factoring, it was multiplying and dividing. Nothing too crazy, right? Our graph of x squared plus x plus y squared plus y equals 199 over 2. And the xy plane is a circle. What is the length of the circle's radius? Okay, so for this one, right, it's asking for radius. And let's go over standard form of a circle. It is x minus h squared plus parentheses y minus k squared equals r squared, right? And where h and k is vertex of the circle, or not vertex, sorry, center of the circle. And r equals radius, okay? Now, how do we get from this equation to that? You do completing the square, which if you haven't done in a while, maybe look up a worksheet like a CUDA or something. You take the b value of each part, right? So this is 1. You're going to half it, so 1/2, and you're going to square the 1/2. So I'm going to add 1/4. And then I'll do the same thing for the y's, right? It's y squared plus y. Again, the coefficient on the y is 1. Half of that is half. Squared is 1/4. And I have 199 over 2. And I'm going to add 1/4 plus 1/4, right, to keep everything balanced. And now I have x plus 1/2 squared, because the whole point of completing the square is to make a perfect square here, plus y plus 1/2 squared equals 1/4 plus 1/4 is 1/2 plus 199 is going to be 200 over 2, 100. Okay, we don't care about the center because we just care about the radius. And the radius is the square root of 100. R equals root 100. R equals 10. And that's our answer like this, which I love. This is my preferred way to do it. But people love Desmos, and I'm going to show you how to do it on Desmos in just a second. Okay, so if we're going to do it on Desmos, right, we put it in the equation. Plus x plus y squared plus y equals 199 over 2. You just put the equation in, and then you look at this, right? So this is one position here, negative 0.5 and negative 10.5, and then all the way up is negative 0.5, 9.5. If we go here, okay, so the difference here, right, we're going straight across, and then 9.5 to negative 10.5, it's a 20. So that's the diameter, and half of that would be 10, so the radius would be 10. So that's the other way to do it. I don't love it because you need to make sure you're going through the center when you're going across to make sure it's the diameter. And you can sort of guesstimate, but here you don't have that option of being inexact. You want to be precise. If it was a multiple choice question, I think Desmos would be more helpful. But again, you could try it this way if you feel very comfortable with Desmos. Otherwise, do it with completing the square. It's really not that bad. It's definitely something you want to practice anyway. Two identical rectangular prisms each have a height of 90 centimeters. The base of each prism is a square, and the surface area of each prism is k centimeters squared. If the prisms are glued together along a square base, the resulting prism has an surface area of 92 over 47k centimeters squared. What is the side length in centimeters of each square base? So I'd like to visualize this to start, right? So we have a rectangular prism. Well, we have two, but let's just do one right now. And it has a square base, so let's call each side length B, and then it has a height of 90, okay? And then it's getting joined, right, to another one that's identical. So it's boop, and it's going to be boop, okay, and again it's going to be 90, again B, okay? So let's find the surface area formulas for each, right? So surface area is normally 2 times LW plus WH plus LH, right? Now here, let's find the surface area for the two of them, or for the one of them, right? And the surface area of each prism is K. Let's find the surface area of that. That would be K equals 2 times the bases squared, because they're LW, let's say, is both B and B, plus BH plus BH again, right? And then that's going to give us 2B squared plus 2BH, which gets us 2B squared plus 4BH. And then combined, right, what's happening when they're combined? They're the same except we don't have the middle pieces, right? Because those are pasted together. So we still have 2 on the outside, and then we're doubling the height. So it's going to be 92 over 47k equals 2b squared again. But instead of 4bh, it's going to be 8bh, because we're doubling the height. It's 180, right? Okay. And now we have B and H. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract this from this equation and see what happens, right? So it's going to be negative of this plus this. So that's going to give us, when we do 92 over 47 minus k, we're going to get 45 over 47k equals 2b squared minus 2b squared. Cancel. 8bh minus 4bh gets us 4bh. And remember, h is 90, so that's going to be 360b. So 45 over 47k equals 360b. Then let's solve for k in terms of b by multiplying by 47 over 45. So k equals 360b times 47 over 45. That will be 360 divided by 45 is 8, times 47 is going to give us 376b. Okay? Now, we're trying to find b, and we can plug that back in, okay, into the first equation and say 376b equals 2b squared plus 4bh, which is 360. Now we'll subtract 360b, subtract 360b, 2b squared, 2b squared, right? That makes me think of Hamlet, to be and not to be squared. Okay, it's going to be 16b, so 2b squared, 16b, divide. Okay, so now let's subtract 16b, so we get 2b squared again, right? So 2b squared, Hamlet again, minus 16b equals 0. So factor out the 2b, and we get 2b, b minus 8 equals 0. So then, let's draw a little line. B equals 0, comma 8. And it can't be 0 because we need a positive dimension, right? So it has to be 8, and that is our answer right here, right? So to be squared, to be or not to be, to get this right or not to get this right. The big questions in life, right? It is totally possible to do this one. You just have to be careful and you have to think about the formulas. And again, like the one before, maybe it feels insurmountable when you see it, but you just think, well, can I make a formula for the surface area of one prism? And you get that, great. Oh, can I make a formula for the surface area of the two prisms combined? Okay. Oh, there's 2b squareds in both of them. Maybe I can cancel things out. Oh, I see that. And bit by bit, you put it together. It's about trusting that you'll get to the end if you just take a step, right? A journey of 1,000 steps, 1,000 miles begins with one step. That's what we're doing here, except luckily it's not 1,000 steps, it's maybe 9 or 10. In the xy plane, a parabola has vertex 9, comma, negative 14, and intersects the x-axis at 2 points. If the equation of the parabola is written in the form y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, where a, b, and c are constants, which of the following could be the value of a plus b plus c? So they're not doing any weird tricks by making the letters be different than they usually are, right? This is the standard lettering for the formula, and we're just doing a plus b plus c, and we get a vertex. And we're told that it intersects at the x-axis at 2 points. The y value is negative 14, right? So if I were to graph it, just to think about, right? It's to the right, down, and it crosses twice. So that means A is positive. And, you know, any little piece of information on these that I can get that I feel certain about, it can be helpful. So how do we do this, right? Well, let's try to make an equation doing it with the vertex form. So vertex form, right, is y equals a parentheses x minus h squared plus k, where h and k is again the vertex. Vert, right? Not as in vertical, but as in vertex. So y equals a parentheses x minus 9 squared. And my idea here is I'll have it written out and then I'll try to, you know, work it into the standard form that we see here, right? So y equals a x squared minus 9x, because I'm foiling it out, right? Minus 9x again, plus 81 minus 14. So then if I get it to what I can get it to, it's going to be y equals ax squared minus 18ax plus 81a minus 14. Okay, and right now, maybe we are at a crossroads or at an impasse or whatever word you want to use for this sort of barrier that we're at. But we're also kind of close to this ax squared plus bx plus c form, right? So a is the part that gets multiplied by x squared. And for the x squareds here, we have a is a. So a equals a, nice and clean, all right? And we know that's positive. Then b is going to be negative 18a, because it's the part that gets multiplied by the x. And then c is the leftover 81 minus 14. So combined, we're going to have a minus 18a plus 81a minus 14. And then a minus 18 is going to be negative 17a plus 81. It's going to be 64a minus 14. And now we really reach the point where we can't go further, right? But how is this going to help us? Let's look at our answer choices. We have negative 23, negative 19, negative 14, and negative 12. So the magic, the beauty, the power is that we know A is positive. So whatever this is, we know 64A has to be positive. So this has to be greater than what? It has to be greater than negative 14, because negative 14 plus a positive number is going to be bigger than just negative 14. So we don't know if a is a whole number. We don't know if it's an integer or a fraction. It could be 0.1. It could be a million. We don't know. But we do know that it's positive. So that means that this has to be bigger than negative 14, and we're looking at our answer choices. It's not A, not B, not C. The only one that's bigger than negative 14 is D, negative 12. And that's our answer here. This question you could not answer right without answer choices because there's an infinite number of possibilities. It just happens to be an infinite number of possibilities above negative 14. So again, this is one of those questions where you just have to trust yourself, trust your math, and try things out, right? Experiment. It's like a little science experiment, working things out. So the basics on the math that you need to know, right, is what is vertex form? What could be the A, B, and C? Once you have that, the math itself isn't too bad. It's just using the answer choices to help you see that there's only one that actually works. All right, that's the video. That's the compilation for them all. Again, if you have questions, let me know. Good luck if you're taking the test this Saturday. I'm feeling confident for you, right? If you're watching these videos, that means you're putting the work in. And, don't stress too much. Try to rest. Try to get a good night's sleep. Have a good breakfast. Good luck with everything. And as always, I hope it is sunny where you are. And if it's raining, I hope it's cleaning your windows and watering your plants. Bye.